This is really good wisdom from Andy Warhol. He says, sometimes people let the same problem make them miserable for years when they could have just said, so what? That's one of my favorite things to say. So what? My mother didn't love me. So what? My husband won't ball me. So what? I'm a success, but I'm still alone. So what? I don't know how I made it through all the years before I learned how to do that trick. It took me a long time. It took a long time for me to learn it. But once you do, you never forget. Yeah, that's a really good reframe of mind whenever you're going through a hard period or whenever someone tries to make you feel a certain way and tries to tell you something important, ends the conversation, because a lot of humans' problems and anxieties are just made up scenarios in their head. And if we just step back and say, so what? Who cares? And just focus on what's essential and important to improving our lives and making us outliers and successful artists and photographers and people, then everything else deserves to just be put aside. Just focus on the few things that matter to you. And if someone tries to make you think that something's important that doesn't align with your mission or your goal, so what? Just say so what and focus on the essentials. Andy has a really interesting take on travel. He says, I don't like to travel because I really like to slow time. For a plane to have to leave 3 or 4 hours ahead of time, that's a day right there. If you really want your life to pass like a movie in front of you, just travel. You can forget your life. He says straight off that as well. I like a rut. People call me up and say, I hope I'm not disturbing your rut calling you up like this. They know how much I like it. The way I took that kind of philosophy and advice from Andy is the importance of slowing things down, giving yourself time to think, giving yourself time to recharge, and not being in the busy trap. I think in the 21st century, especially, and probably back then as well, we love to signal how busy we are. Oh, I can't do this. I'm just so busy. And we sound like it's a negative thing, but it's actually signaling, oh, I'm so busy. If you're busy the entire time of your life, you're busy traveling, going to conferences and meetings, etc., you're going to look back at your life and realize, like, where did it all go? There's a quote that stuck with me from that movie about Ferris Bueller's Day Off or something. He said, life moves pretty fast, and if you don't stop to look around once in a while, you'll miss it. I think that's so true. I think in today's culture, we love to want to post all the pictures of us traveling and travel the world. And yeah, we should definitely go traveling, see new places, meet new people. But a lot can be done just in your room. A lot of ideas can be generated just on a slow walk on a Sunday. And falling into the busy trap won't allow you to do that. A lot of problems in the world could be solved if we could just feel comfortable sat in a room alone with our thoughts or on our desk and just getting on with creative projects. And especially if you're a photographer who wants to travel the world, if we did that for our entire careers, we'd waste a lot of time traveling. And especially if we were just like sat on our phone scrolling and stuff, I think there is a lot of value to just being at home in the routine you're in and giving yourself time to think and giving yourself time to just come up with ideas which you can then go out into the world and create and spread and show. But yeah, there's a lot of value in just not traveling and just sitting in your room and coming up with great work. Yeah, I don't know what Andy's definition of a rut really is, but I certainly don't really like ruts. But when I look back at ruts I've been in where I have stopped creating photos, stopped putting my work out to the world, I've always returned with a bit more clarity and a bit more kind of thought of what I really want to do. I didn't post on social media for about 10 months recently, and I spent that time, it could have been seen as a rut, but I spent my time trying a few different things and reading, working out, and like practicing photography. And now I've come back and I feel so much more aligned with what I want to do. If I didn't do that, if I didn't go on that 10-month gap, I definitely wouldn't have started this podcast. And I knew in the back of my mind instinctively that starting a podcast was the right thing to do. But I just had to step back for a bit and think things through and figure out what I really wanted to do with my life. So yeah, there is definitely value in stepping back, and being in a rut, like Andy Warhol says. So, in later on in the book, chapter 10, Atmosphere, talks about the importance of space. And this definitely applies to our photography. He says, I really believe in empty spaces. Empty space is never wasted space. Wasted space is any space that has art in it, which is hilarious, seeing that he is an artist who clearly has taken a lot of space in the world's best galleries, museums, and in rich people's homes. But I think photographers, empty space is never wasted space is such an important maxim to internalize, and it's something I've definitely internalized in my work. The power of empty space is so underrated. I think being a minimalist in photography can have so much benefit because it lets your subject that you're focusing on have space to breathe, and it lets you create some really nice minimalist compositions. Recently, I won in the British Wildlife Photography Awards with my image of a snowdrop at night. And it's literally just a picture of a snowdrop. I'll put it on the screen, but it's a picture of a snowdrop. And then the rest of the frame is just black. Just no clutter whatsoever. And that is an example of me utilizing empty space in my photography. I think if a photo is cluttered and there's not a lot of empty space, especially in subject-focused photography instead of landscape, kind of contextual photography, I think having a lot of clutter creates tension, and tension points is anything in the frame that distracts the viewer from the main subject that you were photographing. It could be a tree, it could be garbage, it could be a bit of dust in the sky or a cloud. Moonrise photo, one of his most famous photos, he originally had clouds in the sky at the top of the frame, but in later, which of them, he removed those clouds, and that created empty space, and now it's seen as one of his most famous photos. Empty space is never wasted space. Utilize empty space in your images if you want to succeed. And yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with Andy on that one. So you can tell Andy Warhol doesn't identify himself as an artist. He identifies himself as a business artist. He says about artists, an artist is somebody who produces things that people don't need to have, but that he, for some reason, thinks it would be a good idea to give them. Art is a much better thing to be making than art, because art doesn't support the space it takes up, whereas business art does. If business art doesn't support its own space, it goes out of business. So that, by that definition, every art in a museum or in a gallery is business art. And what Andy's referring to is just normal art that just sits in your studio, or photos that sit on your hard drive. He's saying that to make your art business art is to turn it into a product and market it and make a profit from it so you can make more art, like he said earlier. So yeah, that's a very interesting kind of philosophy on things, and I think it's something that I agree with. You can see all these artists like Mark Rothko or Damien Hirst or Francis Bacon. They made art for themselves, but it's technically, according to what Andy's saying, business art because it's selling for millions of dollars and being displayed in the most famous galleries and in the most famous museums, which bring in traffic from around the world. So yeah, I think if you want to be an outlier and a successful artist and photographer, you need to make your art business art, and that's just turning it into something that's valuable and something that people would want to buy and want to have displayed on their wall or on a mug or in their gallery or anything.